So much of masculinity is attached to the concept of sacrificing oneself for the betterment of those around you. In the words of today's guest, bend, but do not break. We are a rock, a tether, for that or those which need us to attach themselves to as a form of safety while they fulfill their highest potential. But we must do so in a manner that acknowledges and validates the autonomy and individuality of everyone that is not ourselves. We must pour from our cup into whatever we choose and step into a form that is accountable to what we've promised to ourselves and others. Today's guest is Matthew Labas, a longtime friend and the co-owner of the Black Label Property Group in St. Albert, Alberta. Matt stands tall as a proud husband, father of three, and a fundamental figure for his real estate team as he has chosen a much more artistic and story-driven view, not only for the properties and families he deals with, but for the story he is writing for himself and his family. He is a beacon of positive masculinity and understands the balance between the historical feminine and masculine energies, which he taps into continually to ensure that everyone around him is both inspired and validated in their existence. I know I say this every time, but it's true. This conversation is a special one. As always, I'm Tyrone, and you can follow me on socials at Tyrone the Philosopher. Enjoy.
Okay, hi Matt.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good. Likewise, buddy. It's good to see you.
Thanks for accepting and coming on and be willing to talk about everything we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So first question, what is your definition of masculinity? Everyone, it hits everyone.
My definition of masculinity, for me, masculinity kind of, I would say that it kind of, for me, the things I'm struggling with is it really tethers into fatherhood for me. Mm-hmm. And just kind of getting really deep rooted into that. And I think there's a bunch of different ways you can go for it, but the thing that I would come back to is masculinity and fatherhood for me is it's just consistency, kind of stable, bend don't break type of thing, and kind of holding space type of thing.
Space for what?
It would be essentially, I just want to kind of be that rock for my kids,
right?
And holding space for them to kind of grow, kind of explore, kind of get further out there, and they just kind of know that I'm always there for them, and kind of just a force that they can always no matter how far out they go or how far they walk, they can turn around and they can see me, and that I'm there. And I think that provides a certain safety net and security to them, and I don't know. To me, that's kind of what comes up when I think about masculinity.
Okay, I like that, and I like the idea of like a tether, right? It's like I'm picturing like a child swimming like in a lake, and they've got like a tether to the pier, right? It's like if you look back and that tether's there, you as the child, you have confidence, right, to swim a little farther, essentially.
And to kind of keep things, progressive, and it's that safety and security net and stuff like that to give them confidence. And,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's deeply rooted in fatherhood for you.
Yeah.
And so what about, relate that to somebody who isn't a father, then what does that look like?
It's just how that relates to me, but I think, that could stretch into so many different ways. It's responsibility. And you can be responsible for a multitude of things. You can be responsible for cars, jobs, your partner, all these things. And I think that there's a thin, narrative, and I find kind of masculinity in that relationship of taking care of something and, giving it that security.
Right. Okay. And so that can be anything in terms of passions or just kind of like picking what you are, picking what you're into, and then being accountable for what you've committed to.
I think so. That'd be a really good way to phrase it.
Okay. I like that. And then so where do you think that comes from for you? Where is that definition? What shaped that in you and what created that belief for you?
I think that came kind of from my father, and he was always kind of hammering home about making sure that, you're taking care of the people that you care about and doing whatever you need to do that. Mm-hmm. And it surprisingly enough, it does come at a little bit of a cost, I find, and I'm still navigating those waters, because if you're spending so much time being that for somebody else, you kind of get left untethered a little bit. Okay. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic that, I don't know, I'm kind of learning more about that as my kids age, as I age, and kind of just seeing that and having, conversations.
Just like the question of like, how much do you sacrifice of yourself?
Yes. And if you're spending all this time, being that for other people, not a lot of people look back and try to be that for you.
Right.
And so it can get lost in the shuffle. And I'm sure you've experienced that too in your field. Like I'm sure there's a multitude of people that look after whomever, masculinity isn't just fatherhood, but if you're doing that, you can really get lost in it a little bit. So it's kind of a fine line that oscillates between something really wonderful if done right, but also isolating as well.
And so it's almost a provider aspect, right? Yep. Where you're just like providing. And like, I know I've seen a picture of it where it's like, it's like a stick figure and there's holes in him and the kids have those holes inside them, right? Like, so he's taking pieces of himself to make sure that they become whole, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, also like the book, The Giving Tree, which has always stuck with me. I mean, the tree kind of gives right until it's a stump, and even then, sometimes that's just enough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you say all this, and obviously we've worked together. You helped me buy my first house.
Yep.
And I kind of see that provider aspect because you were always there. You were always like, so you pour that into other aspects of your life as well. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do.
In the real estate business, let's shift a little bit because I wanted to talk about masculinity in that business.
Sure.
How do you see that play out in, I don't know, we can call it your competition, we can call it just the industry itself. Like, what do you see would you call real estate like a masculine business?
I think there's masculine aspects, not so much. I mean, predominantly the majority of realtors statistically are women, which is kind of interesting. I think there's definitely masculine emotions in it. The buyer-seller push-pull kind of tug that exists. Yeah. And people have a thing where they want to win. And that stuff kind of starts to show itself a little bit. But on the other hand, in terms of, masculinity, there's something to be said about, helping a family find home and like a place that's kind of a shelter and a storm and to kind of their safe space. Yeah. And finding that thread, which is what we really strive to do. Yep. And so it's nice to help other families and young families secure that. And so there's masculinity in that as well.
So that, once again, the provider, and then you did mention like there's a bit of nurture in it too, right?
Of course.
Especially with the way you've kind of branded yourself and in terms of the soul and the care and the love that exists within the process and in the home. Mm-hmm. Do you find that the conflict present is how much does that take away from the process? And how much do you have to fight to balance that out, right? Like we just kind of mentioned masculine and feminine energies in that essentially. So like if you're trying to focus more on what seems like the feminine energies of it, is it tough to battle against the masculine side of that?
I think it's a balance, and I think we're better for that balance, and it's finding, you know, those two things coming together really nicely. There's, you know, as I'm sure you can attest, like there's healthy, you know, opportunities for both to kind of come forward and be a prominent fixture. You know, sometimes it requires, you know, risk or aggression, and other times it requires patience, trusting the process, kind of going with the flow. And I think that if you can strike that chord, that's where you're operating, you know, from a real estate perspective, I guess, undefeatable, really. It doesn't matter what happens in the real estate market. You'll do really well because you have this nice necessary fixture to deal with whatever comes. Because there is an element with real estate where there's stuff that's out of your control. And then that's where you kind of lean on kind of the framework that we aspire to help our clients, you know, build so that they're resilient and they can kind of weather what they need to.
And this is just, I guess, out of curiosity, have you ever experienced like we'll call it like an overly masculine, overly aggressive opposing force where you're just like, this is not it, essentially, right?
Yeah, it comes through. You know, you'll sometimes see agent to agent be quite combative. It doesn't happen too much, but it used to, where they are, this is what it is, and, you know, you kind of come up against it.
Yep.
Again, you know, the way we've structured our business, we've formed a great rapport with all the agents, but it's non-productive.
Right.
Two sides just kind of slamming together and kind of going about that way.
Right.
And so, yes, we do come across that, but in our kind of experience, it's, you know, kind of setting the precedent in terms of, okay, like how can we get to this point where the buyers want to buy the house, sellers want to sell it? How can it, you know, be productive for everybody?
Okay, and then so expanding that into real life, like what have you taken from, I say real life, like work's not real life, expanding that into your day-to-day, but like what are some of the key lessons you've learned from finding those balances and taking them and apply them to your day-to-day outside of work?
I think the biggest one, and one that I've struggled with and I'm still trying to slowly master, is there are things that are going to be out of your control, and you have to learn to trust the outcomes. You can prep yourself, you can be ready for anything and everything, and you just can't force or will something. There's an element there where you just have to kind of trust, and you have to let it go. And as somebody that is a little bit of a control freak in terms of wanting to always, you know, take A to B, it doesn't really work like that in real estate. You can try everything, and it's just going to end up the way it is.
Right.
And taking that element and applying it at home, especially with kids, as you know, you can't tell toddlers what to do.
Yeah, at some point,
you can set guidelines, and you can hopefully get there, but there's an element where you just kind of got to trust the process and kind of just go along for the ride.
Okay. And I'm thinking about kind of that tether you said too, because you've got this provider nature. You want to do everything you can. You're willing to take pieces of yourself to make sure that those around you or your responsibilities are secure and safe. But at the same time, you have to know, hey, it's okay for me to not push farther, right? It's like, it's okay. Like if you're trying to build a wall and you can't build this wall to protect your people, it's like, okay, well, we got to deal with what we have, right? And there's strength in the tether in that aspect, right?
Yeah, and it's nice to kind of work towards that, and again, that's trusting it and knowing that, sometimes it's also just accepting that what you've brought to the table is enough, and it's going to have to be enough, and to kind of walk that line.
And so what kind of inspired you to do more, to provide more, to help? I mean, how many people have you helped at this point get houses?
We're probably somewhere in I'd say probably about 500 families.
Incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
So what inspires you to do that?
It always has come from a place of, I know what that feels like to kind of find home, and to kind of, just feel like you've established a place to kind of build a life from. And it's a wonderful feeling, and we just really strive to kind of give our clients that same feeling. And I say clients, but like honestly, we really work with friends and family and referrals, and that is kind of what gets us up in the morning and kind of takes the next step to provide that service to them, whether they're buying or selling, right? Because even on the selling aspect, like you're selling your home, and it doesn't need to be a $2 million house to be beautiful. It's where you lived your life and you raised your family, and that could be a condo, it could be an apartment. Every property, can be really lovely for that. Right. And so we've really taken pride in finding what it is, about that life that people love.
The word that's kind of standing out to me is like opportunity. It's just like on both sides. It's like by selling, we are giving you the opportunity to move on, right? And move to the next chapter, to the next step. And by assisting the buyer, it's like we are helping you with the opportunity of finding the perfect place, right?
That's you nailed it. And that's one thing that, kind of people kind of cross, the narrative is that we only deal in like luxury properties, and you and I have known each other for a long time, and that's not the case. We put in a lot of effort to, a luxury is not a price point. It's a life well lived, right? And everybody kind of is going for that, and so we want to be sensitive to it.
Amazing. I think the luxury portion of your brand looks pretty luxury.
Yes.
Like you've done a good job with that, I'll tell you that. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And I think, things have changed now in terms of obviously the dynamic of gender roles and buying the house, and whose house it is, and who's the head of the house. With interactions with clients, I don't know how much you can say or whatever, but what do you see as a driving force for families now? Like, is it in terms of we're talking like gender dynamics and masculinity here? I don't know if I'm framing the question correctly. I feel a little lost in my head, but when somebody or a family is buying a house, what is your kind of outlook on family dynamics? Do you see any trends, anything like that coming forward?
I think there's like classic staples that, permeates throughout, where the man is most concerned with the garage, and the wife more concerned with the kitchen. It hasn't really, I've seen that narrative flipped though so many times. Maybe it used to be like that, but it's certainly just kind of changed, in terms of what people are after. Like, yes, kitchens will always be a great thing, garage sizes, but now it's where people are in their life. If you're younger, you might want to be closer to restaurants and downtown. If you're, starting a family, it's schools and backyards. And so it's where somebody's at in life is driving it a little bit more. But we do come across the classic dynamics such as that. And oftentimes, we'll whenever we do work with our clients, and if there's two decision makers on it, we aspire to work with both of them equally, and let them both have their say, because they're both important.
Yeah.
Funny enough, whenever we take clients out and I talk to buyers, especially first-time buyers, I tell them to wait for the house that they both green light and they go, because inevitably there's going to be one that one likes and the other one doesn't, and it's so tempting to jump on that, and you kind of have to temper those. And then we walk through one and it's like, okay, this is it. And when we find it, like we'll take a year looking for the right one. Right. And then once they find it, like you can just read it on people's face.
What I'm kind of taking from that is the patience for agreeance, right? Like it's you've got this. If you jump in too early or you make a rash decision, this is a big decision, right? And that can be translated to anything, really. Like, I mean, if you're spending any amount of time in anything and you have kind of given up too much for something, then it's going to come back to bite you in a way, right?
Yeah, and that's, to even circle back, like that's where, is it masculine to see the house and know you want it and so you go and get it type of thing, and trusting that? Again, that's where you open the door for, trusting those instincts and emotions and stuff like that. Yeah. And to kind of go, and I mean, you went through the process as well. Remember, we were looking at homes, and the one that you're in, we walked through it. You knew. Right?
Yeah, and we got lucky. It was day one.
But it was organic, right? Yeah. Like it was an extension. It wasn't our first house that we looked at. Yeah. It was, we looked through. You guys walked, and you kind of both looked at each other, and it was like, okay, this is checking our boxes, and that is both, the masculine and the feminine, sides of the partnership, where this house had what you wanted, and then we went out and got it.
And I think it's interesting too, the kind of, we talked about that, like, provider, that safety, that kind of thing. And so if you can, not only providing the material or providing the atmosphere or providing the shelter or whatever, but if you can provide somebody with safety for their emotions and for their opinions too, right? Like leaving space for the opposing view to exist and oppose or agree or whatever, so you can come together safely, right?
Absolutely. And the job of an agent, a really good one, is to kind of put your clients in a space where they can have those discussions and not feel these market pressures or pulls, like, oh, we have to jump on it and I don't know if I'm going to like it, or you kind of want to put that in a box. We're saying, hey, okay, guys, we have this. Now you can have this discussion, and if you love it, then we'll go get it, type of thing, where you're not feeling that pressure.
Right. What we mentioned kind of the tether and that kind of thing to I guess shift gears a little bit here. Your biggest takeaway at home and providing that balance with your family. What is kind of your goals for the future moving forward with fatherhood?
I think my goals is to, just when we started, I talked about being there for them. My goal is to stay there for them. And that goes through the changes of their lives. And, as they grow, they know that, I'm always at the edge of the pool or the edge of the park, or they can come to me with anything and everything, and I'll be there for them. Right. And that, I think, is all I could ever hope for, to provide that stability to them. Right. And for me speaking, I think that giving them that space to grow and to kind of be and to feel loved and supportive, that is that would be my goal long term. It's consistency.
So just extending and staying true to the values you've already kind of established in a way, yeah?
in a way, and it will change, right? Like as what's important to them and where they're at, and maybe everybody jokes like when they become teenagers they're not going to like you, but that's okay, to be there for them. I think it's a really great gift, and as somebody like I lost my dad, and I know what that absence feels like, and it would be a great gift to be able to stay there for as long as I can for them.
Right. Well, of course, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It makes sense that that's kind of where your values are then, right?
Yeah.
Like not to make up for it or to stand in where, but you know the pain that comes from it, essentially, and you don't want your kids to experience it.
That'd be a good way to put it. Yeah. And what about you? What's some of your goals?
Oh, I'm getting questions today. My goals are very similar. Mine are giving space for them to exist as they are and supporting them through it. And like I don't want them to feel pressured to have to do anything to earn my love or my presence or whatever. And it's like I want them to, like, my father wasn't ever into the things that I was into, and it was just like I want to share these experiences with you, right? Like I enjoy video games. Like come and sit down and fumble around on a video game with me and laugh with me, right? Come do the things I want to do and let me be, right? As opposed to, he was very like, go do track and field, go do sports, go to school, like the blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I get it, but it's also not me as much as I know you want it to be me. So that's my biggest thing. It's like, you want to sit and play Duplo for an hour? Like, let's do that, because I know you like that, and I know you're enjoying this time over, and I'm enjoying just being here with you while you're enjoying it, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of where my goals are. Also rooted in my father, yes, too, right?
It's kind of generational, and sometimes I wonder if it's reactionary, like because you experience this, you want to give them that, and I often think about not only how I'm raising my kids or whatever, in terms of how reactional is that to the loss of my dad, and then I start to think about like what their reactional child rearing will be in the future because of whatever mistakes I'm making now, or what they think they would do better in the future. And I think that's cool to have be interested in what your kids are interested in.
And the idea of that reactionary, I think it feels like that's more of a conversation now. Like it's like everyone's talking about breaking generational trauma and like blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, so when did this start? When did this all of a sudden become a thing? Because you go a couple generations back, maybe even one for a lot of people, or even currently it's still happening for a lot of people, right? So like, at what point did it become like, hey, my dad treated me like this, my parents treated me like this, I experienced this, and I need to stop it, right? As opposed to just being so involved in the process where we just pass it on, right? Or whatever.
I think it comes from just people are more open now than they ever were, and they're willing to share. It used to be a stigma to have issues, or to you growing up in a spot where it's like, just rub some dirt on it and kind of keep going, and I think there's space now for people to be more open and talk about not only their traumas, just things that affected them, and to kind of go up and grow. And
so in your emotional journey, I guess then, like, can you walk me through that? Because I knew obviously we met in high school. What was our relationship there? We were friends. We knew each other.
Yeah, we were cordial. acquaintances.
different groups, technically. I didn't think you ever were really a full part of some of the group that you hung out with. Like, you were obviously good friends with, like, who were, like, Braden Arth, Mitchell Bolduc, those types of guys. You weren't never into the, you obviously played hockey, too. So you were, I guess you were into that. I don't know, you always stood out a little bit to me. Not in a bad way, but just as not fully integrated to that full circle. Some of them, anyways. And then what? And then we kind of parted ways. And so, take me through some of your emotional journey, I guess. Then what have you experienced, and how have you grown over the years as a man, as obviously your father, that kind of thing?
I think it'd be described as substantive. I'm a different person than who I was even 10 years ago, which would still be after high school. I think I had a lot of, I guess, what would be like angst almost, or uncertainty about who and what I was and what I was, destined to do in life and all of these things. And so it kind of took an extreme humbling and a lot of loss to kind of let the pot come off boil, and I could start kind of from cooking from scratch again.
What age would you say that was?
That would have been 2015, so just about 10 years ago now. So I was about 25, 26. It was pretty substantive. And it's, I guess it's just reined me in a lot more emotionally and kind of put my values at different spots than they were. And then that got reshuffled again once we had our first, because then all of a sudden you kind of, in the most healthy way, you almost do hop into a back seat once you have your first
you're not
child.
living for yourself anymore.
You're not, and it's different. And so then it changes again. I don't know. I was nice and I was good and all that stuff, but I don't know if I would like the person that I was 10 years ago.
Okay.
Which is kind of
That's a big statement.
Yeah. There was a lot of growth that needed to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the nicest way to my past self as possible.
You didn't know, right? You only knew. Okay, let me run this theory by you then, because I so many times. So obviously frontal lobe fully develops in 20s, right? That's the last portion. You're running on mammalian brain and whatever. And so you hit your 20s and your frontal lobe wakes up and you're finally in your adult form, and you look around at this life you've been living, which has been shaped by parents, teachers, friends, media, basically your environment, and some genes and blah, 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 as you're growing up. And you think that you have a goal and you think you know who you are. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, and you're just like, what the hell am I doing? Who am I? Like, I'm in this job, a lot of people, my parents wanted me to run their restaurant, so I was following that train or whatever, right? And that's all you do. And then all of a sudden you have to just shake all of that off. Everything you've learned, every piece of masculinity, every piece of knowledge that you have, and say like, oh, okay, who am I on the inside and what do I want? What do I actually want, right? Is that something that you like, does that resonate with you at all?
It absolutely does. It was never like an aha moment. It was like a slow dawning and, going through like a massive change. For me, and it was actually liberating, was just swimming to keep my head above water. And there's an element where it's almost relaxing, because that's all you just got to keep swimming, just keep going. And that mentally got me to focus on what was most important, and to kind of to build off that. And once you go through that, then like all this other stuff that you'd be worried about or considered, or, you know, you're absolutely right. Like like all of these things that shaped you and that you thought were the most important, they kind of fall away at that. And then you slowly start unearthing what is. And, you know, to me, that gave me kind of a sense of purpose. And I was like, okay, if I can just keep swimming and if I can just keep kind of getting to the next spot, you know, not only will I be okay, or, you know, my wife or my sister or my mom, they'll be okay, and to kind of go from there.
So with that knowledge, how do you help your kids get there without going the wrong direction, or like without hitting that wall? Not like, we didn't say it's obviously like a aha moment, but like easing them through that process?
I think that is the big question. Like, how do you do it, right? Like, the only, I guess I'd put it back to you. There's an element where, as much as you want to protect anybody, they got to live life, and it's going to shape you. And so I want to always be there for them and to give them that support and be interested in it. But there's also an element where they got to fall off their bike, and they got to get their heart broken. They got to not get into something, or get cut from a team, or not get a job, or get fired from a job. And that's something that you'll never be able to protect anybody from that, but you can be there for them. And
you don't want that. Like, I think there's a lot of, I need to protect them. I need to protect them. They need to not experience pain. And it's like, what? Like, how are you going to send them out into the world? How are they going to function?
And that's it. That's the most like useful tool. Is pain is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be really quite beautiful and necessary. But it does have to be a learning thing, right? And so that's the big question. I wish I had a roadmap. I don't, and so it's just me. And in terms of, you know, just something that they can look back at and they know that I'm there.
Right.
For them, and love them unconditionally, and whatever they're interested in or what they want to do.
Yeah. So when the change happens, they're not scared to make it.
Yeah, or scared to talk to me about it, right? And to kind of go, do you have any thoughts on how you're going to roadmap?
Kind of similar, because it's like, well, what got you to the point where you realized, hey, I want to be in real estate and start this business and help people find these homes, and that's what I'm able to be passionate about, right? And really dive into, and it resonates with my soul, right? Like how did you get to that point? Well, you're passionate, right? It all comes down to like what is passion, and what are you into, and how do we? If that's what it is all about, I can't tell you what that passion is.
Yeah.
I can't. All I can do is say like, hey, you want to go try something? Let's go. And let's do it. We can do it in the safest way possible, and make sure that we try and that you don't experience pain or blah, 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 and we can prepare you for it. And if something happens, if you don't like it, if like you fall in love and you get your heart broken or whatever, it's like, it's okay. We experience the pain. It hurts. And then
You're still
continue.
alive. You're still continuing.
You know? And I think that is the only way, because if you get stuck saying like, I'm meant to do this and I'm unable to go try anything else, then maybe you're on the wrong path, but you'll never know. And maybe you'll be in pain your whole life, but you won't avoid it. You'll choose the pain you know over the pain you don't know.
You would. I also, like, again, it's just, you learn these things in hindsight as you age, but when people say, like, chase your passion, it took me, like, a really long time to realize that doesn't mean, like, you can be passionate about a whole bunch of different things, but you can also bring your passion to something that is unrelated to it, and you can still find that creative outlet and flow. And for me, for real estate, I'm I'm really passionate about, telling narratives about our clients' homes, and it just so happens that is useful to them. And it wasn't really something that
I love it. I love it so
thank
much.
you.
It's amazing.
But I remember when I told, my family, I was in my grandma's basement, that I was getting my real estate license. They're like, okay. And they thought I was like, that's kind of, like ho-hum. And I don't blame them. Like it is just a job. It is, but we were able to kind of unearth something that I was passionate about, and that's what it is. And when it comes together, it comes through as something unique and interesting and with love. And I think that's what that is what kind of gets me up and excited to be here.
Yeah.
And to kind of do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you can attest the same way. Like, your what you're bringing to your patients or your clients or people that you're seeing, like, and your creativity and like how you're shooting your videos and stuff like that. Like, I knew you through different iterations of yourself as well. And like to see you kind of come up and like everything kind of accumulated into who you are now. And it's kind of cool that you brought your passions from growing up into a role that it didn't traditionally exist, but it does make something beautiful and unique.
Yeah.
And I think that that's cool.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that you don't have to go find, and like, I love video games too. I don't work at a video game company. I would have loved that. But
I tried to.
I would have absolutely loved it, but it wasn't so nail on the head.
Black label video game.
Exactly.
Let me know. Yeah, let's go.
But it's like, okay, I love reading and I love writing, and real estate is not where you think that would be a quality that would help you in it. Yep. And I found some like-minded people, and it's been extremely rewarding in terms of that. And so,
amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird hindsight.
I resonate with that a lot, like, because, and interesting, like, just finishing school, it's very westernized, colonized, like, it's very rigid. Yeah. It's very, and I've even gotten pushback from a supervisor, my dad. He's like, you need to be careful, you like don't see certain things. And I'm like, I'm going to carve out this place where I can be passionate about the uniqueness and validity of everybody's story, right? Like, you are a unique and interesting person, and I love discussing experience. So it's like, what is our experience? How do they differ? It's okay that they differ. We grew up in the same place, and we have completely different stories. Like, how did that happen, right? How do we have, I'm sure there's many beliefs that are aligned and that are different, but if we can't sit here and talk about them in a civil manner and use that discussion to like better each other, then what the hell are we doing?
I think so, and I think that's where interesting ideas come from. There's like marketing idioms where the most interesting products come from two unlike things coming together, because then it creates something novel and that it hasn't really been done before. And I can attest that's probably the same for careers, for you meeting with people and stuff like that and getting ideas. It's okay to have, like, it wouldn't benefit anybody for us to just agree the whole time.
So we gotta find something we disagree with.
Yeah, I guess we do. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't think, is there anything you want to bring up? I think this might be a shorter one. This was, I don't think I have any other questions. It was a good conversation so far.
Yeah. Honestly, it was good, and I don't know, challenge my convictions. I knew you said that you wanted to talk about masculinity, and then just came right out, and but maybe that kind of gave, was cold water in terms of getting a true, to the heart of it, honest answer for me. And yeah, I'm glad that you clarified that. I don't think masculinity comes from being a father. I think it could come from a whole bunch of different things, but I think it's taking care of something at the heart of it, and that is a very masculine thing.
I think there's, taking care of oneself, taking care of those around you, and this is the theme that comes up every single time. It's like taking care, and then, like, I don't know if you listened to the last one with Jeff, and we talked about like the ability to provide and care for something that is not yourself, is in different degrees is where we align that masculinity, right? Like some people take on wealth and have a family, and then they protect that from everything, and they're considered masculine because they are whatever, right? Lifted up by what they have. But like if we broaden that into just everybody, or the planet, or Earth, or just anything, right? Like, how confident are you in that standing, and how many people are you hurting to protect what is yours?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that there is an element of confidence needs to come with it, and I think when you're confident, you're less focused on what other people are doing, or hurting other people, or fixated on these negative contrasting emotions. If you're confident and you're holding space, you're not really competing against anybody else. You're inward at that point, and I think that there's a lot of beauty that comes from that, and it's almost calming to meet a confident person. They're not boisterous. They're not showing off. They're not doing anything. It's almost like you kind of have to take a step back if you meet somebody that's found that space, and it can be really quite incredible. I know my oldest daughter, her and I have always talked. She's getting into grade 1, and we've always said the two things that I would want for her is her to be confident and kind. And, is that a masculine request, or is that, a feminine request? Is that both? I think it's a nice duality for her. So
I think it's interesting that like confident and kind. It's like, okay, well, is that a feminine? Can a woman be that? Obviously, but is that a masculine trait? Right? Like the need for it to be defined.
Yep.
I've talked about this with a couple other people. Like, do we need to define male and female aside from just reproductive purposes, right? Like, as we grow, as we move on, especially from a species who has grown this consciousness, who now we are attracted to intellectual capabilities and emotions and things like that, and not just physical reproductive characteristics. Like, all of a sudden, our need for the definitions disappears.
I think so. Yeah, I think it necessarily falls away. Yep. It's not so cut and dry over who's the provider and who's the protector, and all of those aspects. And I think that a healthy balance for both, from a personality standpoint and an emotional stability standpoint, is paramount. I hope my daughters have those elements, and I hope my son has those elements where he's that. And I think that that does go full circle to what I always want for my buyers, is that both of those spheres are, those pillars are in good standing, and they're honored in terms of what they need. And I think that brings a nice necessary duality, and that in theory would bring confidence.
Right. Yeah. The ability to just exist without trying to fit in. That's what it kind of always comes down
right?
to.
Doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
To just kind of go from there. Right. And I think that everybody has it within themselves to go there. And that's the goal, right? Isn't that to find that and to be freestanding like that?
Yeah.
And, I think that's really cool. And it's really awesome when you can find somebody or something, or somebody that has they're a little further down the path in terms of figuring that out,
right?
Which is cool.
Okay. We'll wrap it up there. So the last thing, what is, I guess, one message you have? Whether maybe it could be to anybody. Maybe it's to your kids in the future, or maybe one day they'll watch this, or to your colleagues, or to your family.
I hope that everybody ends up like Ada and they're confident and they're kind. And that would be it.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Or, well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Step into my office.
How's it going?
Out of my office.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Awesome.